talk about today? Well, I definitely want to look at the news because I haven't seen the news ever. You don't ever know what the flying monkeys are up to. We got to look at the news at some point. I know we like to talk. We also have to know when to run for the hills. But I was thinking about something. This morning. I always think about something. My brain never stops. That's the thing about a God. God gave you a brain. Are you going to use it? Did God give you anything that you're not supposed to use? See, I think everything God gave you is supposed to use. And I don't know what God is. I'm not convinced you. I met a lot of people who knew my whole life. But I don't think they knew God. I think they were just recruiting. I think they were recruiters. And it leads me to a question. Listening to my favorite guru this morning, and they were asking him about God. And I still agree that I think that there should be 7 billion different religions on the planet. But God gave you a brain. Did God give you a brain not to use it? See, the brain I have, it questions everything. It didn't always, but it does now. I think it's now starting to function. It questions everything. Does God need help? That's my first question. Does God need help? Like my help. I don't know. I'm just thinking about things. I think about how the kings do things, right? The kings need help. They always needed recruiters. They needed somebody to help. There's a God that creates universes and planets, solar systems and quasars, black holes, the white holes too. Does that God need help? Does it need numbers on the planet? So, all right. I mean, this is where I get off. I like to question things. I question everything. And I think that God, if this God thing gave you a brain, it created you, and it gave you a brain, you're supposed to use it. You're supposed to question things. You're not supposed to go along willy-nilly with anything. Kings need help. Gods don't need help. Kings need help. Gods don't need help. And so kings would always send you on an errand. Kings like errands. I don't know what it is with the king. Kings they send people on errands. And some of them realize if they became God, they could send some people on some errands. I don't know. I'm questioning that part. Did God send you out in the world to go recruit people for somebody's army? Because that's all recruiting. That's all king stuff. I see it all the time. I see Marines out there recruiting, Navy, Army. They're out there. They got the trucks, rock and roll music, the Humvees, get the kids to sign up. Religious people out there in the roads got the Bibles and books and Jehovah's Witnesses and the tablets and the Korans and trying to recruit people. I don't think God needs help. I think we're confused. That just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not claiming I understand it. I ain't gonna tell you that I know nothing. I don't know. Hey, good morning, everybody. This is a man's job for God. I like this. This is an RAAF recruitment poster. I don't think God needs an army. Like we were, there was a song when we were kids. I don't know if y'all remember Sunday school, In God's Army. Hang on. I'm looking a little too dark this morning. What's up with my lights? Who up in there? Christine, good morning. Augustine over there. Christine said, God doesn't need help, but we do. In tune with him, he can do more. Yes, I agree, Christine. See, all right, I agree. Who's that? Ivana and Trish in heaven. See, I don't think God needs my help. I think I need help. And the other thing I think is if you have to ask if God exists, God doesn't exist. That's what I think. Because I think it's like a spirituality thing. And if you want to recruit people for a God, if you feel your God wants you to go out and do some recruiting, the first thing you got to do is help people. You got to get them out of the 5 senses, right? Because a God thing is a spiritual thing. It's a 6 sense thing. It's not a 5 sense, eye, smell, hearing, whatever, the survival senses. And the only way people get out of those 5 senses or to the 6th sense is if they got the first 5. That's what I think. I don't think that you can tell people about God and they don't feel or sense God. I think if you want people to recruit and be in tap with God, you don't need to tell them anything. You just need to feed them. That's it. Give them some food, give them a house, a little bit of water. A little bit of peace helps. Make sure little girls can walk to school without American guns and warlords that they fund. They're like trying to grab them and rape them in in an alleyway. I think if you help people, then they can find God. And the neat thing about that is you don't have to tell them who God is. You gotta tell them that. Because when they have peace, people spend time in meditation and they have the free time to think about the sixth sense because they're not trying to get food. They're not trying to run and hide for safety. So that's why I don't think God needs recruiters. That's my perspective. I do want to look at the news. Actually, I don't want to look at the news. I think I need to look at it. We need to look at the news. We don't want to look at the news. There's a difference. There's a big, I don't want to see what the monkeys are up to. But you always got to look at the monkeys because you can't really talk to people unless you like tap into their world for a little bit, then try to tap out. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. He needs your prayers and good deeds to increase his essence. Can we increase God's essence? A great God. I think about it. Trish, I don't know. Can I increase? I don't. I'm gonna get in trouble today. I'm gonna move to a new topic. Can I help God? I mean, if God is out there like making all of this, can I really increase or help God? Does my prayers do I affect anything on that level? I don't know, Trish. I'm kind of, now I know I can help with little g gods. Like I think maybe there's some archons and devils and all that energy and stuff people talk about, and you increase it. Like it doesn't need armies with men and in robes and swords and stuff. Maybe they prey on spiritual energy or something. I don't know. See, that sounds like kingish stuff to me, right? That sounds pretty kingish. That sounds pretty get behind the popish, get behind the bishop-ishes, get behind the minister-ishes, and everybody pray and homage. And I don't know. I think step one is taking care of people. I kind of think that. All right, hang on. I really just started. I need just a little more sunlight in my life. It's a little dark right there. There we go. All right, there we go. There we go. Yeah, and Gerard said, let there be light. I just lit up. All right, I'm sorry. I know it's not funny. All right, let's get started. So that was my first question, and I do want to go over to the news. But what is this deal with God? You know, I guess I think that if you have to ask, God doesn't exist for you. At least we're not right now. Not right now. If you don't sense that there's something more than just whatever all of this nonsense is, it's not an important question for you. You know, that something's missing. If you think that this is it and these five senses surviving, you eat some food and you collect the planet, put it in your mouth, you make it a part of the human thing, then you die and turn to dust, then yeah, you shouldn't believe in God. I'm not trying to make anyone believe. I'm not on anybody's errand to increase their numbers. I don't think numbers should exist. I don't think people should be in groups. Humans in groups are like monkeys in groups. You can do a lot of damage with more people in the group. So yeah, I'm not out recruiting for anybody. If anything, I'm trying to recruit for yourself. You need to recruit for yourself. So I think if you have to ask that question, then God doesn't exist. And my understanding of ancient scriptures that I try to look at and try to process what they knew and begin my life from where they left off, not begin my life, starting from where they begun, is, what are the things that man created that he put in ancient scripture or the time stuck in there versus what that God thing is, what a creator, what everybody's sensing. Because I can tell you this, from my perspective, there's a God. There's definitely a God. I have no idea what it is, but I can sense it, and it's creepy. That's not, I'm sorry, God, I really didn't mean that, but not creepy, just outside of my understanding, right? I spent most of my life in these five senses in church, never tapping into anything spiritual. There's something here, and I don't know what it is, and it's all connected. And it's connected not just with the people, but the plants and the animals and all of that great stuff. I remember I am the Lord's army. Yes, from Sunday school, Lord, you remember. It's like, I'm in the Lord's army now. Yeah, I forgot how it goes. I was real young. But I just remember, now I'm thinking, does the Lord need an army? Does the Lord need men? Does the Lord need women? And I don't think so. I don't think God is at our levels. That's really mannish. But they indoctrinate kids, Lord, like we were indoctrinated to go that direction, to pick up a struggle and to go off and fight for men. That's how I've seen it over my life. They use people in church numbers to go fight somebody else instead of feed them, fight them over resources, and not really taking care of people. God is at best a myth. At worst, he's an uncaring jerk who allows suffering and injustice and slavery. Look out for yourself. You are the only one you can count on. I disagree with that, Travis. I disagree. You and I, we agree on most things. I disagree on that. I think God is there, but I don't think anybody really knows what it is. I think people like to lie and pretend they know what it is because they want you in their army to go do something. Like all of this is too balanced and too working together. So something did all of this, but I don't think we know. But I get where you're coming from. I big time get where you're coming from because they've abused whatever this God thing is, whatever this thing we sense. They've abused and act like they know it. Would God allow pain and suffering? I don't know. I have to think about it. So if God is a father thing, Travis, and do I allow pain and suffering in my kids? Hell yeah. Hell yeah, I do. Depends on the circumstance. Right? Because pain and suffering are great teachers. They're great teachers. Would God intercede like a parent interceding, with a child that you taught it a lesson, right? Sometimes you teach the kids that, you know what, listen, you got the cookies in your hand and you like hanging over the rail. We used to go fishing, Travis, when I was a kid. I take my kids fishing. You're hanging over the rail and you got your Snoopy fishing rod and you got your bag of cookies in your hand and he's like hanging over the rail over the lake and he's eating the cookies. And like, because you're your father or your mother and you can predict the future, you're literally a prophet in that circumstance. You know what's gonna happen because you've done that before. And the ducks, they know what happened too, right? Because the ducks start swimming around at the bottom. Right underneath the kid on the bridge or on the rail leaning over the lake with the fishy snooping rod and the cookies. The ducks know what's gonna happen. They didn't see the future, they done predicted it. And that doesn't mean the ducks are God. The duck's a prophet. Doesn't mean that I'm a prophet either. It just means that I hadn't been here before. I've been here a little longer than you have. And them cookies, when they fall, finally, when the fish bite or something happened, the brother calling, hey, what? Cookies, they hit the water, the cookies fall, and that's it. But a blessing for the cookies. But those cookies fall is a blessing for the ducks, and the ducks will eat. A lot of pain and suffering happens. I think pain and suffering is a teacher. And that's kind of an example, I think, of perhaps, like I like to look at these things, Travis, and try to process, how would a God work, right? If we are creating these children and we want to bring them up and we want to make them better than what we are, if a God exists, if a creator exists, it would probably want us to be better than it at some point, right? Like I think those things work together, as above, so below, whatever. I don't know. I didn't want to get into much of a God conversation. I was just thinking about that because people are always fighting over the God thing, and we need to end this world conflict, fighting over things that none of us actually know. We need to end that. We need to let that go. If you don't believe in God, then I say that it's not either time or, maybe God doesn't exist for that person or that time or this rendition coming back here. Who knows? Who knows? But I think that it's not worth killing anybody over. It's not worth beating anybody over the head with. It's not even worth a debate, to be honest with you. It's not worth any of that. Because I don't think God needs men to go do anything, right? So I think pain and suffering is a thing. See, I would let the cookies fall in the water, Travis, because I know my kids aren't going to die if the cookies fall in the water. The ducks might die because they're probably processed cookies. They're probably Oreos and they're carcinogens for ducks and humans. But, they wouldn't die. And if you are a God thing, you created the software, you created the human being, and they're not going to die, then you would probably allow pain and suffering to teach them. Like I think Yemen is teaching me. Yemen is teaching the hell out of me. You know what it taught me, Travis? It taught me I'm not playing this game anymore. It taught me I give up. I'm done. I'm out the game. I am not going to back a system that starves children to their bellies pop. I don't care if you call them Democrats or Republicans. I'm not backing their game. I'm not backing their play. I'm not even listening. People posting stuff all day, Travis, about Marianne and Trump and Obama, and I don't even know if he's running again. I really don't even care. Oprah and who the rest of them? Bernie and all. I don't really care. You know, if you want to be a part of a system that starves children to their belly pop, that's not my business. That's not a struggle I'm in. That's not anything that's important to me. That's not anything that I can have any parts with. Because see, another part of that God thing is if God exists, you want to know if God exists so you'll know what's right and wrong, then God, you don't have a God. I don't know. Like me knowing God exists and I have a brain to process how these things work, I don't need a God to tell me what's right and wrong. You know what I mean? I don't need a God to tell me that we shouldn't be doing the things that we're doing, that we shouldn't be killing children and bombing. I don't need a God to tell me that. And if you need a God to tell you that, I think you're probably not created by a God. Maybe you're software. Maybe you're AI, you know? You're just waiting for someone to program you and tell you something that you probably should already know. You know what I mean? I'm not talking to you, Travis. I'm just talking in general. So I'm not in that whole God thing, that whole fight over God. I mean, God is what God is to me. I find it an interesting discussion, not a debate. And if God wants someone else to believe in it, and it's a spiritual creature, it's omnipotent, it's out there making universes, stars, quasars, and planets, then it doesn't need my help to talk to that person, right? The only reason I would talk to that person is because I want to recruit for my army. And I don't want nobody in my army. I think everybody should be in their own. Yes, that's it, Trish. He's got the whole world in his hand. Right, and that's my point. You remember the song? He's got the whole world in his hand. He got the whole world. That's how it goes. But he got the whole world and he needs me to do something. He got the whole world in your hand. So, all right, I'm gonna stop because people get upset with that one. Just process. If God gave you a brain, use your brain. That's all I'm saying. God gave you a brain for a reason. If God didn't want you to use your brain, God wouldn't have gave you one. So always question everything. Always question everything. Because there are a lot of humans out there recruiting for their armies. There are a lot of kings and lords and a lot of ministers and pastors and priests. They're recruiting too. A lot of people with the vaccine thing, the scientists and the doctors. Everybody's out there doing some recruiting. All right. Yes, Lauren of the Salvation Army. I'm more interested in the Salvation Army. Can we save the humans? Can we it doesn't matter if God exists. If the people who believe in God are dropping bombs, then I don't know that those people actually believe in God. I think those people believe more in death and destruction than anything. Sensing God deep, it gives you awe for him. Well, is God a him, Christine? I think somebody asked that. That's why it's crazy, right? Because God is a him. I was listening to Saj Guru this morning, Christine. What he was talking about is human beings are also always thinking about gender, right? Like you always, when you look at someone, you think male, female, and I don't know, or whatever. Everyone's trying to process. Human beings are so focused on gender. Would a God be focused on gender? Would a God even have a gender? Or is gender just given to people here for procreation or some other social experiment? I don't think God is a gender. I think gender is more of a human being thing. That's why I really start to question, why would God even need a gender? There's species on this planet that they are, what do they call them? Hermaphroditic plants. And certain, reptiles. And other reptiles switch their sex. Human beings, their DNA changes over a lifetime. You can be straight in the morning and be gay by nighttime, and I don't know, maybe take a few months or something. That's how it happens. Your DNA is always flipping. So I don't think God is a gender. And then when I see man concepts appearing in people talking about God, then that's when I start to question, because that's more of a manism. Like God doesn't need recruiters, and why would God have a gender? That doesn't make any sense to me. Sorry, anyway. So I think we have brains. I think we're supposed to use them. All right. I do want to look at the news. I didn't want to talk about God. I'm questioning things and I have questions. I go back and read the comments later. Why would God do that? That's horrible. Like, what if God was a man? How bad that is. Oh my God. Why would God pick man? That's just so stupid. I don't know that. Man, if I was God, I would be. I've been a man my whole life. We got issues, y'all. We got issues. We got things that drive us that should never drive nothing. But it's all right. I'm not good at it. That doesn't make sense to me. It wouldn't make sense to me. Like, Why would God be a man and then put woman on the earth? See, that smells of Egyptian patriarchism, right? In the age that Noah copied the text and made up that whole thing about original sin from the Naga text, from the geoglyphs that came from the Sanskrit text, the creation story that is not true. That just sounds like, why, if you were God and you're male and you make female, that means female are cattle. That means they're lesser. Because that means now all the men have something common with God that the women don't have. And that just smells patriarchal to me. That smells like I invented something and I'm gonna put my manism, because I got this man monkey brain, in this scripture thing. So I'm just saying question. That's all I'm saying. God gave you a brain, use your brain. That's all I'm saying. I'd like to look at the news. Use your brain. And remember, religion is for you. His belief is for inside of you. When we enter this world right here, we need to act on facts. We need to talk on things that are true or things that are very plausible. But the things that we don't know for sure, we can't take actions on things we don't know for sure. We shouldn't be. Not things that end negatively, right? Not things that break the only one law, which is, sovereignty. Do no harm, right? It's all right. I want to look at the news. What's somebody talking about Dorian? Is Dorian manipulated, controlled weather? I love these questions, Lorna, because I have no damn idea. All right, I'll touch it for a minute. All right, because I was talking to somebody yesterday about it, someone who never heard of geoengineering, right? Someone who never heard of and he was really interested. He had no idea that we had weather weapons going back into the late 40s. All right. I'm gonna try to put it in a practical way, Lauren. I'm gonna try to put it in a practical way, because I think people who know this, they already get it. If I were Brazil, as an example, and I had these weather patterns, if I, back in the 1940s, we had the weather patterns. With the 1960s, they created that pact where 120 nations said they wouldn't use the weather weapons against other nations. If that were me, and I was Brazil, and I wanted to make a lot of money, if I wanted to help my people, if I were in a world that were struggling against the economic powers of Britain and America and France and everybody else, Colombia, I would need to do things in my nation to increase my GDP, right? So if I had the ability to modify weapons, if I had a couple $1 billion and I could buy it from Raytheon or whoever made all of that crap that they don't tell us about, not only the whistleblowers give us insight into, and I had a lot of rainforest, I perhaps would dry the climate up as much as I can. I don't know how the weather works in Brazil. I know in America, it all comes from the West. So let's say in Brazil, let's say it does that. On the West Coast, I'd put that HARP ship out there and I'd manipulate it so either it would rain less, so we can get some forest fires going, so I could dry up large swaths of the rainforest, and I'd either set them on fire or new natural fires would happen. I would clear the land so I could put in, manufacturing, banana plantations, anything, right? That's what I would do. And if I were in, United Arab Emirates, and I heard of cloud seeding, what would I do? And this is I'm trying to be as practical as I can, because sometimes you lose people. I would spend billions of dollars to seed the clouds so it would rain on the areas of my kingdom, because I want more greenery, right? I'm tired of living in a desert. I got the money, I'm gonna do it. And we know they're doing that. United Arab Emirates, how many billions they spend per year seeding the clouds to make it rain? So we know we're gonna do that. Chiquita Banana hired mercenaries to make banana plantations, so of course they would use weather weapons. So what happens, come forward in time, almost 80 years of having weather weapons in private and slightly public, and JFK saying these things will change the climate. What happens if you got 80 nations now that are using them, outside of the 120 that signed the pact way back then? And everyone's just trying to modify the weather for their area because they're trying to compete on a global scale. Just economics. I'm always about follow the money. It would create some very wacky weather. It would definitely create some sort of shift in climate that JFK warned us about. And so when it comes to if Dorian is weather modification, I'd have to say that we can't blame Dorian on normal weather or weather modification until we knew what all those nations were up to. I think if I were a part of a species, a human race, and weird things were happening with the weather, and we knew that these countries have these patents, and we know that they're competing on economic scales with other nations, and modifying the weather could be a great profitable scheme, great profitable business plan. I think that we have to blame the nations that have secrecy about weather weapons. I think if you have secrecy, then by default, you have to get the blame. I think with Dorian, we have to say it is weather modification. I think every storm should be weather modification. I think every drought, we should blame weather modification. I think every tornado, we should blame them. All the destruction, all the floods, the Hurricane Katrinas. I mean, if somebody's tampering with these things, then we should blame them. And not that they would do it nefariously. Not that America's trying to kill its own citizens or anything. We can go to conspiracy land and talk about the nuances of kings and what they've always done. We don't even have to do that. We can say, well, yeah, sure, they would certainly want to help things in their nation so they can make more money. And if the people didn't care about it and the people didn't know about it, then they wouldn't even talk about it because they blame the weather. So from a very practical perspective, I think that we're all cousins all across this planet. We're all adversely affected by it. And so I'm not interested in anyone talking about climate change. Everybody who says anything about climate change, I ask them, do you want to get out there and fight, or do you know what's going on first, right? Because if you don't know what you're fighting, then what's the point? Nations can't have secrets. So I agree with JFK. I think that you blame all the fires, you blame all the weather, you blame all the droughts, you blame rise of cost of food prices because farmers can't grow what they used to. You blame it all on the governments that have these weather weapons. Because we know we have them, we don't know what they're doing with them. Now, do all of them have the resources to use the weather weapons? That, I would doubt that, but it's possible. I don't know. I think that's the first step has always got to be remembering that we're family, and you can't have 20 countries around the world modifying the weather in their own countries. That doesn't affect everybody else. If you take the rain out the sky, it's going to affect the next country over, which is going to affect something globally on the other side. It's going to create a drought. Everything's related. It's going to change the wind. And when you look at that pact, why would they sign they wouldn't sign the pact until they said that they can use the weather weapons in their own nation. If you get 120 countries, somebody give me the date. What is the date on that? If you get 120 countries that all come together and say, we're going to sign this pact that we're not going to use these weather weapons in another country, that's because they asked to use it in their own country. And it means that they have them. And we haven't been watching them for 80 years, so of course they're using them, and now the climate's changing. So that's where I get off on that. But I think Dorian slowed down anyway. I think didn't Dorian dry up or something, or was going real slow? I think it was who was that? I think it was Daniel. Rebecca said it was a mall walker or something. Dorian has been 50 miles away for 24 hours. Dorian's just waiting to hit the coast, and that harp ship is holding it out there, Rebecca. The harp ship is just holding it out there. It's like, no, we're not ready yet. They're not scared yet. We need everybody to buy water, buy generators, buy that. We need other people to stay in hotels. We need to generate the economy. We need y'all to go to Home Depot, buy the 2x4s, board the windows up. We need y'all to spend money, keep spending. And to me, it makes sense, Rebecca, because it's like a 9/11. It's like a mini 9/11 for an economy. If you can scare people, it's like Bush after 9/11. Everybody go out and shop. The hell would a president say that? 3,000 people just died, and you're going to tell everybody to go out and shop? Everything is economics. That's how it works with me. It always comes. I don't like to go on conspiracies that somebody attacked our nation and the president says go out and shop. I think Little Bush was sitting in the meetings with Big Bush and the others, and what is his name, Bandar Bush and all the rest of them, and he overheard a few things, and he came back and said, we need to keep the economy going. Yeah, we need to use this and do some disaster capitalism, get them out in the mall shopping, buying up the small electronics so we can generate more GDP. That's what I kind of think. I don't know. So I just think everything is used. Everything that we don't know will be used against us. That's just how it works. Those who have satellites have weather weapons. Okay, Lauren, and I'm not going to claim I know how it works. I mean, there were so many weather patents. Somebody sent me a link. There were hundreds of them, so I don't know anything about that. I just know that if they have it and the people don't know about it, or the people do, they're going to use it. If they can put on the news some mass shooting and get everybody look that way, mass shootings that have always happened, mass killings that happen every day that government's doing in other nations, if people are that gullible to be jerked around by the news, then hell yeah, they're going to use it. They'd be stupid not to. It's a powerful tool. It's a tool. Government needs power, and they will use every tool at their disposal to gain more power. That's what I kind of think. Go shop, then patriotic, wave a flag for war. Absolutely, Lori, because they're recruiting. Everything is recruitment. Everything is about taking other people and getting them to do what you want them to do. That's why I don't think gods need recruiters. I think men need recruiters. I think militaries need recruiters, but I don't think gods need recruiters. It doesn't make any sense to me. All right, let's take a look at the news. Anybody see anything that's interesting that we need to talk about today? Anything that's important that's not distractionary? But also, if there's a distraction that we need to debunk and give people a root cause problem so we don't waste our time talking about it. I can't really get down with this. I see earthquakes, floods, monsoons, tornadoes, and hurricanes long before we had any technology. We have a high pressure system that put the brakes on the low pressure hurricane. All of the conspiracy zone today. Well, right, John, I kind of agree with you too. Like if you go back and you look at Brazil, I mean, it's been drying up. Did y'all see the, goodness gracious, what was it? The Sahara Desert. Like Bright Insight did another video about the Sahara Desert. Sahara Desert's been drying for a long time. They say as soon as probably like 5,000 years ago, it was a lush rainforest. So the climates are always changing. I guess from my perspective, John, when it comes to it, when bad things happen, people always look for answers, right? And they'll yell climate change on this side, they'll yell nothing's going on that side, and I just yell, hey, this is a great opportunity. They're using these opportunities for disaster capitalism on that side, and people who enjoy the truth. To me, John, it's an opportunity to say no more secrets in government. Right? It's an opportunity to say we need to open source. It's an opportunity to evolve our government forward and take out the secrecy, right? Because a government that has secrets isn't your government. That's somebody scamming you. So when these things happen, I just don't believe in letting them dominate the conversation. Do I think they're geoengineering weapons that are being used? I guarantee geoengineering weapons are being used. Is it causing Dorian? That's anybody's guess. But I think if they game us for power, we need to game them for our powers back. You know what I'm saying? That's what I do. That's why I don't fight with the flat earthers. That's my whole point. I'm fine with the Area 51ers too. Just don't go down. Just don't go down there. Don't go down there. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. They're gonna shoot every one of y'all. All right, what do we got here? ICE raids, the big picture shakedown. I'm not that interested. Immigration, we cause it, we destroy other countries. We need to stop doing that. That's the bottom line. One side says let everybody in, the other side says keep everybody out. I say stop destroying their countries, the problem goes away. Amazon cameras creating surveillance rings for the police. Well, we know that. Empires need police states. We talked about that yesterday. That's not going away. It's gonna get worse because people line up to vote for the next war criminal. On contact, legitimizing American mediocrity. I don't know. What is the rest of that? Oh, with Danny Hopper. Okay. I don't know. I'm not that interested. Unless y'all are. An outrageously funny look at the oncoming recession. I don't think the recession is going to be funny. I think it's going to hurt. I think that you could prevent the hurt that's going to come. Well, I guess it's funny that we're not doing anything about it. It's ridiculous that we're voting for a government that's not like preparing for what's coming, which is a currency collapse. Like Chris Hedges said, we know this is coming and we're not even preparing for it. That's how you know you don't have a government. And that's why I ain't voting today. I'm not voting today. They could take billions and say, oh, if you had a government, this is what they would do. This is what your 2020 would do. They would say bad times are coming. The Great Depression was caused by the bankers and the Federal Reserve. It was caused by central bankers. And they're probably going to do it again. We didn't blame them last time, and it's probably going to happen again. The currency's collapsing. We lost 98% of the value of the dollar since 1933. That this is probably going to happen again. We need to grow food for people. We have automation and robots. We need houses. We need our people to not go crazy and go run in the streets and murder each other. That's how you know you have a government. That's how you know you have a 2020 that gives a damn about you. But if you got a 2020 that's talking about health care and end the wars that they all took money for, the wars that their political parties cannot stop because the political parties are based on there being war and bombing other people and sending weapons all around the world, black markets, and end up back in America on American streets, but they're fighting gun control or fighting for gun control. That's how you know you don't have a government. You know, they're not doing anything to help. They're doing to help you, to help your neighbors, to make sure your neighbors got food so they don't rob you. They're not doing anything to prepare for the greatest depression that's coming, a collapse of the currency. It seems like they do everything to either they're too stupid and they're talking about things that don't matter, or they really don't understand anything and they were just somehow elected into a position and they can't process priorities. That's what I kind of think. Or they're just a part of it and they understand and their job is not for you. They're a part of an oligarchy and their job is to basically confuse the people while they gain more power. While they gain more power to be tools for the oligarchs that run everything at the top, international billionaires for profit. Jesse Ventura, never let the government put you under surveillance. And I agree with that. Brother Jesse ain't never lied. He ain't never lied. I don't always agree with him, but he'll tell the truth, and that's a very truthful statement. Never let the government put you under surveillance, because if they do, it's not your government. I think Chris Hedges best said it, that they're your masters, they are your captors. If they must surveil you, you aren't free. There's nothing free about people who need to surveil you. Those are people trying to control you. Did your streaming service provider just get busted? I don't know. I don't know anything about that. Why are 3,000 pilots suing Boeing? I don't see anything important. How is China's facial recognition system will track you? Or how will it track you? I guess the same way the Americans will, the same way Britain's will. CCTV, you've got the cameras on all the stoplights. They got the satellites now that actually look at the top of your head, the top of your car, and like it links you and your form and where you go, and it records all of that with your car. And if you do anything outside of your normal patterns, it flags you. All of that stuff from 24, that TV show, all of that stuff is real. Miss T's talking about war and killing. Onward Christian soldier. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Onward Christian soldier marching as to war with the cross of Jesus going on before. Yikes songs. Oh, my goodness. Of and for killing others. Right, Miss T? And you know, Christ ain't got nothing to do with that. Christ has nothing at all to do with that. And that's my biggest critique. They keep playing these games. This is why I think that the Old Testament, they kind of keep it around to convince everybody it's okay to break those 10 commandments. I think the Old Testament's still around to convince people to be okay with doing all the things the Antichrist would do. That's why I'm just a skeptic. They were brainwashing me to go off and murder people in Christ's name, and Christ did that what he did, and after he went to India and synced up with the Hindus and came back and said the things he did that were groundbreaking, earth-shattering, and created the world's biggest religion. Yeah, I'm not going to defy him. I don't know what he did necessarily or what it was, but I'm not going to defy it. Powerful creature, that Christ thing. Taliban confident peace deal ahead. Yeah, but Taliban, you're going to have a war deal ahead because America makes its money with war. As long as America makes its money with war and billionaires make their money around the world, playing nations by getting the people to be nationalists and fight each other, it's all about conflict. Taliban, another conflict is coming your way. You thought it was over with Russia, then America came. When America's done, America's going to come back. Somebody else is going to come back. They make their money on war. When the world's GDP is driven by blowing nations up and all the earnings you can make from destroying a land that people live in, it's going to come again. So peace is not on the horizon until human beings discover sentience, a little bit of it at least. NYT, pivot to cover Trump's racism, misses the mark. Okay, well, that's Chris, and that's Brother Chris. Maybe we should, y'all want to look at that? I like when Chris talks, but in terms of Trump being racism, again, I don't care about that. I really don't care about that. Like, to me, that's fake news. Everybody in America everybody in the world is racist. As long as people believe in race, they're racist. That's what I believe. You might be a well-meaning racist, or you might not be, but those are just struggles of power to control other people. It's just like recruiting for for the king's religions. I'm not that interested in anything race, and I'm not interested, like it's a pointless topic. It's a pointless topic. We can go down that topic, but the blacks in governments have killed more blacks in America and put more blacks in prison with the crime bill and other things than any of the whites in government did. So what does it matter? Everybody who gets to the top of any group is going to sell them out. And no, Trump isn't helping out the poor whites. Trump is hurting the poor whites. That's how it works, because people believed in these things, right? Obama got to the top and he restarted slavery in Africa, right? Like, this is how it works. Anything that you blindly follow is always taken over. You can't blindly follow something. We got to grow past being creatures on perception, looking at somebody's skin color and making, decisions based on that. That's stupid. Hurricane Dorian churns towards Florida. Yep, we got that. Siri contractors overhead. Intimate moments. I think we did that the other day. That's creepy. Microsoft admits listening to Skype calls. Okay, we did all that yesterday. I don't know. I don't see anything important. I don't see anything interesting. I think we hit some of that yesterday. Did we miss something from the day before? I don't know. I don't see anything the monkeys are talking about that's important. Silicon Valley High School bans cell phones. That might be interesting. Why would they ban cell phones? Are they admitting they cause cancer finally? Well, the makers have to. And all the instruction manuals, they tell you not to have it close to your skin.
I don't have kids, but I'm sure it's a big pain in the ass. So I can see maybe how easy it is to give in to your little brat. Give him a phone and let him get sucked into the crap world of the internet.
I'm sorry, hold on. In the whole God context, are we a pain in God's anus? But does God have an anus? If God has, all right, I'll get in trouble with that one. We're definitely a pain to God. Whatever God is just like, oh Lord, these humans, I don't even have time.
So you don't have to deal with an incredibly annoying name, the Yonder Pouch. No E. Y-O-N-D-R. The Yonder Pouch. Now you see, the story I'm doing right here is supposed to be about how hilarious it is that kids in Silicon Valley aren't allowed to use their phones in school, when it's Silicon Valley making these things as horrible as they are, with their terrible social media apps and bleeps and blurps and notifications and fake fame and rotten anonymous comments. This story is supposed to be about that hypocrisy. The people making this stuff for other people's kids don't want their own kids to use it. But I have to talk about this other part of the story. I have to. Because this is the stuff that is really driving me nuts. Even more than the hypocrisy is the yonder with no...
Hang on, before we go to the yonder box, y'all know she's talking about the hypocrisy. I mean, it's stated across the thing. Half of the stuff in America and the West, it's all hypocrisy, like the hypocrisy apocalypse, right? The whole Trump is racist thing, but the blacks in government they're the reason blacks don't matter, black lives don't matter. The people at the water company, they buy bottled water, but they treat the water. The doctors, they sell the medication. A lot of them don't take any of the damn medication. The pharmacists the scientists who are making, the vaccines and the drugs, they don't actually take the drugs either. Like all the hypocrisy. So I guess this just comes to, but it makes sense. It makes sense. It's just a job. They take a job, they do the job. The job is to make money so they can pay their mortgage because the cost of living is too damn ridiculously high, buy a car, and have a life. So they go do the job. They realize how dangerous the technology is. They won't question it at work because that's how they're literally going to retire. But they'll make it for somebody else's kids. So that's legitimate. That's what an oligarchy is supposed to do. That's when you put money between survival and a human being, they'll do anything for it. And lying about a technology or just not talking about the dangers of it, that makes sense. I think the CEOs that roll out 5G, I don't think they're going to live under a 5G tower. I'm pretty damn sure they're going to live in a gated community far away from it.
What the hell is up with these companies?
Dangerous. Kids shouldn't have them. We know that. We've known that for a long time. So much chaos and negativity in the world, we have to remain calm and kind. We have to create as much positive energy as possible to overcome the negative. Absolutely. Totally agree, Susan. I mean, we create our own existences, right? When things happen in the world, it's up to you to determine if you want it to be like sorrowful, negative, or something you can make it to something positive. You know, it's how we take things. Our existence is all in here. Your eyes see things, and you know, you sense them, and all in your brain, you're determining, you know, how to take things. Are you going to make it into something positive? Or are you going to make it into something negative? Are you going to fall into depression? Or are you going to work on a solution? Like, we manifest those things, and so you're right. It's part of the reason, Susan, why I spend time mostly with people who have positive energy. Like, I can't live in negative energy, because when you live in negative energy, you become reactionary, right? People who are suffering, they don't focus on the sixth sense. They don't focus on anything deeper. They just focus on survival. And for survival, people do the dumbest things. And so I'm not interested in like reactionary living. And so I don't spend much time in negative energy. When people are putting off that negative energy, I'm curious as to why they have it. But after I understand why they have it, then I'm gone. Because nothing good comes out of negative energy, right? Like, oh goodness. There was another quote I liked. That Guru threw out. What did he say? Che Guevara, who had a lot of positive quotes. I loved the guy, what he said. But of course, he spent a lot of time in negative energy, right? And so what Saj Guru said, he said, Che had a quote, basically something to the effect of, if you're in outrage, you're one of us. And kids love that quote. And to be honest with you, I think that they abuse that. I don't think that really puts together the whole picture. But you would take that, and if that's all you knew about Che, then you would assume he was completely a violent person, and that's where he was always resonating in negative energy, and he wasn't. And Saj Guru, he kind of upped that. He said, but if you're out of rage, you're one of us, right? And that's where I fall. I'm out of rage. I used to be outraged, and now I'm done with it. I get it now. Like, I used to be outraged. I was pissed off at the world for all the dumb things that we do, all the dumb things that everybody does in every race, every religion, every nation, all the power struggles around the world, all the negativity. And Susan, I walked away from. Like, I finally get it now. It's a Chinese finger trap, right? There's always somebody at the top that's not outraged. Everybody below is outraged, from the governments to the presidents, the prime ministers, the congresses, the senates, the people, the parties, the races. Everybody's outraged. The people at the top, they're not outraged because they have everything. And so I realized it's a Chinese finger trap, right? The more outraged you are on this side, the more outraged they are on that side. And the more you recruit on your side, the more they recruit on that side. And it all becomes the title above. You're on errands for kings, because you're living your birth. You're living a reactionary life that's based in your birth, not based in anything authentic. And everybody pulls, and the tighter you pull in that Chinese finger trap, the tighter the trap holds to your finger, and you never get out of it. So I'm out of rage. I have no outrage to speak of. The world is broken. We can fix the world, but it happens in our own mirror. And to me, that's a positive thing. I think you manifest that in your own in your own life. Oh, you said they're causing trouble on Facebook, Deborah? Is Facebook causing trouble on my stream? I moved over to YouTube. Oh, okay, thank you for the link, Deborah. Yeah, you got to bop around. You know, Facebook is going to do it. They're going to do their job. They have the Global Alliance monitoring people. They've got learning software, shadow banning, and they're going to do what they have to do to make sure that people keep the narratives and they stay in the Chinese finger trap, and they stay outraged in their side. They don't want anything that'll hurt profits, right? It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just Facebook makes money on profit, like most corporations, all the big corporations around the world. It's not a bad thing that they do. It's just how the world works. If they want to stay on top, they got to keep the conflict going. And if you're talking about, you know, we've got 7 billion cousins around the planet, we're all cousins, we need to stop being outraged with each other and start to seek understanding to actually fix things, then you're fighting the system that they profit from. Now, there could be CEOs and executives and whatever that they want to use these platforms to move forward, but they're not going to use it to move forward at all if conflict stops. So yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. You know, to me, the main goal in my life is to be indivisible, right? Indivisible. That's my main goal in life. And I think Susan was talking about earlier, I think that's where a lot of peace comes from, being indivisible. When you know you got 7 billion cousins on this planet, and if they know that they got you, who can be against you? What can harm you? if you've got 7 billion family members. And that's hard to do because a lot of people are still in these little birth conflicts. But damn it, if you got 1 million, you're kind of at peace. If you got 2 million, you're kind of at peace. If you live a lifestyle where you're not creating more enemies, you're creating more allies, you're seeking to understand people, you're not in conflict with them or their gods or how they were born, you're trying to understanding some of the outrage that they have, you increase your circle. And the bigger your circle gets, the more at peace you can be. And that's exactly the opposite of what any big corporation would want. So it has nothing to do with Facebook. It just has to do with how the world works. The world works on conflict. We have to quickly build a new world and give these big corporations, if they still exist, the ability to have, to survive in that world without thriving on conflict. It's just why they sell newspapers. That's what I'm saying. The whole Dorian geo weather weapon. That's why I don't really get into it, because it's all about money. And if we don't know what money's being exchanged in what bank accounts, then we really have no idea what's actually going on. I don't like how Facebook truncates the comment stream. I can only read so many comments on the thread at a time. Yeah, well, I think they do it, Trish, because if you have a lot of comments, then it pushes all of them down. I click on it. And I can't really read the long comments anyway. These lights hurt my eyes. So I kind of just, I try to keep it short and sweet. I love short and sweet. I'll read the long comments when I come back and I take a peek at what you guys are saying later. Money only has value because you believe it does. Mr. Wednesday. We stop putting value in it, it loses its power. Right, Susan? Because money's not evil. Money's not evil. Money's not evil. I think I always say, don't I say that? I think I say that. Money's not evil. We're just not evolved enough to have it. We're not at that level. We might be evolved in another 1,000 years to have such power over each other, but it's a representation of slavery. So money isn't bad. It's just we're not ready for it. It's used to keep us in conflict with one another, and it has no value. If you start, the less you believe in it, the less you'll use it. The less you use it, the less value it has, the less significant it is. Money only has value because people are consumers. When people stop consuming, then people stop diving. Slavery almost goes away. We are our own problems. That's what I mean. We are our own problems, completely. I don't know. I don't really see anything else that's doing it for me. No, robotic saying, street tree, It's behind my head. I just saw one of these. Oh boy, here we go. Please don't tell me this is black goo. Don't tell me this is black goo. I didn't believe it.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but when I heard that America was planning on buying Greenland, I was just like everybody else. I was like, what the heck?
Oh, and then, Lord,
now to some exciting
And before she says it's exciting, let's not get excited yet. Please don't. I love technology, and I always take the IT position. Don't get excited yet, okay? We don't run our world. We don't own our government. We don't decide what the technology is used for. And if you ever worked in the private sector, you know that there's technology that they don't tell you about for a very long time. And it's technology the government doesn't tell the private sector about because they classified it and put a patent on it when they were trying to put a patent on it long before that. So don't get too excited about the technology. And say, oh, it's heart attacks and strokes. Don't just calm down. We're not in control here. Usually the technology is used against us first, and then they tell us what it's there for.
Medical news, where MIT engineers have developed a snake-like robot that can actively glide through narrow, winding pathways like the ones in the human brain.
MIT have created. It's called RoboThread, and it can make diagnosing and treating a variety of different health problems a little easier. It's a thread-like robot that was designed to crawl through the narrow, twisting veins in our brains. This magnetically controlled device is a hydrogel-coated robotic thread or guide wire, and it's less than 1 millimeter thick and could make it easier to diagnose and treat blood clots, aneurysms, and perform other small-scale procedures in the brain without getting stuck. An essential component when XUNN Chow, an associate professor of mechanical engineering and of civil environmental engineering at MIT, said, "Stroke is the number 5 cause of death and a leading cause of disability in the United States. If acute stroke can be treated within the first 90 minutes or so, patients' survival rates could increase significantly. If we could design a device to reverse blood vessel blockage within this golden hour, we could potentially avoid permanent brain damage. That's our hope." And while snake-like robots are nothing new, this robot uses flexible magnetic materials called ferromagnetic domains to move around when others often operate using hydraulics. They're also made of a core of metallic alloys coated in polymer, a material that the researchers say could potentially generate friction and damage vessel linings if the wire were to get stuck in a tight space. And since this RoboThread doesn't have to expand or contract to move forward, it can easily navigate through vein networks effortlessly. The researchers tested the thread in a life-size silicone replica of the brain's major vessels, including clots and aneurysms, modeled after the CT scans of an actual patient's brain. The team filled the silicone vessels with a liquid simulating the viscosity of blood, then manually manipulated a large magnet around the model to steer the robot through the vessels, winding narrow paths. While it hasn't been tested in humans just yet, the robot shows promise. Not only would it be capable of performing delicate procedures, but it could also help doctors perform surgeries remotely. Reporting in New York, Trinity Chavez, RT.
Hey, YouTube, thanks for
It
checking.
sure could. It sure could. It could. It sure could help surgeons perform procedures remotely, and it sure could be used for torture. It could be used for endless things. This is a damn shame about it. Technology is making leaps, massive leaps, jumps, just massive leaps forward. But we're not using them for the right things because we're not in control of anything. We're not using these technologies to help the human race. We don't view each other as family. And so as long as we don't, as long as we're in this Chinese finger trap and everybody's fighting each other, the wheels won't be used for carts, they'll be used for tanks. Electricity won't be used to light the world, not until they're done using it to make drones to blow the world up. Yeah, I don't know. See, Trish, that to me is a little black goo-ish. Y'all, the guy was talking about black goo. This is a little too close to Assange's last speech, his last talk, where he talked about the smart dust, and I start seeing microbots and nanobots, and they're releasing it in the public. It makes me think they've been doing this a while in the private, just like the stealth fighter and everything else. Yeah, it's beyond creepy, Megan. It's beyond creepy. You add that with the idea that they got nanotechnology, to me, the way I've seen technology go, that's not the smallest one they got. That worm is a big worm compared to what they had. They probably have now that's classified or in the private profitable sector. So there's always a lot more than what they tell us about. That's I was trying to tell them the other day, because people are still grasping with this concept of a world with no money. People like me are going to make these things. We're not going to stop. We're not going to stop. We might be psychopaths, to be honest with you. We're not going to stop. People in IT, software developers, engineers, robotics engineers, we're not going to stop. Why? Because it's our skill set. It's what we do. Now, what that technology is used for, that's up to you. That's up to you. It's up to what y'all support. It's what y'all want it to be used for. We can either take the world back and give it back to humanity, or we can let systems and governing and secret societies continue to run all of this. Those are our choices, but we're going to make the technology. And that technology is either going to be used to murder us all, or it's going to be used to make an amazing world. But it's all about power. It's just a tool. It's like money, like everything else. It's just a tool. Until we stop weaponizing technology, there should be a ban on new tech. And I agree with that, Susan. I think all tech should stay in the lab. I think it should stay in the lab until we know how to apply it in our ecosystem in a way where it helps the ecosystem and helps humanity, if not other species. But it needs to stay under wraps. Technology's not bad. We're stupid. That's really what it comes down to. Technology's not bad. We just allow technology to always be used first and foremost for the kings, because we're all on Kings Errands, working in these corporations to help them gain power. And they gain most power by using technology to make massive metal machines to go murder people in other nations. And when there's nobody to murder in another nation, they'll use to murder you. You know, because they don't care about you nor the other. They care about power. And they gain most power by killing the other and just using you as forced labor. Happy Labor Day, happy after Labor Day, y'all. And that's really what it all comes down to. There really are no nations, there never have been. They're just kingdoms. You know, kingdoms full of little deplorables. It's just the deplorables that are closest to the king are the ones he uses to hold the swords to go murder somebody else, and the ones who are like growing the food so he can live a wealthy life. But they don't give two damns about you. You think the American government cares about Americans? Have you checked the water? Have you checked the food? Can you sniff what's actually in the air? They don't care. It's not their job to care. Their job is power, right? And they can kill the other people, and they need your help to do that. So they need to put you on a king's errand. Same way they're out there recruiting for religions, folks out there recruiting for kingdoms, the king's kingdom. That's why all over my country I see American flags everywhere. People don't seem to understand what that means. They don't know who owns the flag. You might want to check who owns the flag first. Like, that stands for America. Well, that's a symbol. It might stand for America. It also might stand for Rothschild banking. The people who bought it, right? You know, if they own the receipt to America and they got it in 1933 or 1913, you might want to rethink that one. But that's it. I mean, technology can be used to help the world. It's coming. We can't stop it. You know, Susan, we're not going to stop. Corporations need money, and the more programmers like me that walk away, they're just going to hire more because more kids are coming up. We have this need to create. We might be psychopaths, y'all. We might be IT. All IT might be psychopaths. I don't want to go get my brain scanned because I love it. I love writing software, solving problems. You know, and our job is to solve your problems. And your problem needs to be your job. Imagine that. If you actually view your job, your labor as a problem. If humans viewed forced labor as a problem, then we could free you. Then you could use the thing that we love to do to free you. That's how we feel alive. We don't feel alive doing the stuff that y'all normal people do. Y'all go to the beach. It makes you happy. No, we like to write software. We like to use big, massive metal machines to fix problems. And your job is a problem. These big corporations are problems. The economy is a problem. Monetary systems are problems. Capitalism is a problem. Socialism is a problem. All these things are problems. They're all used to control a human farm or human farms all over the planet for a top few elites that never do anything. Yeah, Teresa, well, we're not going to last long if we keep it at this rate. At this rate, using the gross collective intellectual properties of an entire planet to keep it in conflict with the other side of the planet or the nation next door, we ain't going to last long. We're in the age of Lex Luthor now, right? When you talk about the geo-weapons we were talking about earlier, we're not in a time of catapults and bows and arrows. We're at a time where just a very few people, we have the technology where just a very few people can destroy the entire planet. And every year, it requires less people. That technology is barreling forward at lightning speeds. 5G. The 100G will be out real soon. You know, so people have to determine, do they still want to, are they still mad at their neighbor because the neighbor didn't take the trash out fast enough? They didn't cut their grass. They're still mad at their neighbor because their country blew up their neighbor's country. You know, are we still going to be continuing to stay in conflict because we don't like our neighbor's skin or how they do their hair or whatever? Are we going to like focus on anything important? A good start would be phasing out timed obsolescence, but that would be anti-American. Isn't that right, Miss T? And that's a French law. Did y'all know that in France, it's planned obsolescence it's been banned. It's outlawed. That's why Apple got in trouble over there because they weren't upgrading the Apple device, the software, and so the old Apple phones were dying to force you to buy a new Apple phone. That's what corporations do, and I don't blame the corporations. We need to be smart enough, Miss T, like on that point, is to ban them. Right? If your business model is based in consumerism and people buying more of what, you know, because you make crap or you make it crappy intentionally, so they'll keep buying it, like cars and houses. Like, do you think that houses should be falling down after they've been built for 15 years old? Their houses around have been standing for 200 years. Are you trying to tell me that people back then with rocks and mortar and donkeys and barrels actually could make houses that stand for 200 years, but people today with laser light levels and dump trucks and science and all of that, they can't make a house stand for 10 years? Come on. Stop. This is all planned. Eight builders build like 80% of the houses in America, or 6 builders, something like that. It's all planned obsolescence. They build crap and they keep it crappy because it makes money. So I totally agree with you. Yeah, we are smart savages, Jack. We're smart, but we're savages. We're intelligent, but we're not sentient. And we're going to continue to destroy this planet until we start tapping into some sort of level of sentience, until we, back to the topic, until we get off of these errands for kings. Kings put us on these errands at birth. They design the society. Like, to me, I think a lot of people argue about when does life start, and I think the real question is living allowed? And right now, living's not allowed. When people are themselves, they can live their own life and make their own decisions. They're very happy people. They're joyous people. They're tapping into their passions. And I suspect that most people don't do a job that's their passion. How do you know that? Because the vast majority of the country is on antidepressant drugs. People need to live their passions. They need to get off of these errands for kings. I think life starts when you start to live your life, when you start to discover yourself. And using technology to free the human race is what we should really be focused on. A government that loves you, that's what they'd be focused on. They wouldn't be focused on getting you jobs, getting you to celebrate a Labor Day. They'd be focused on freeing you from forced labor. That's what people do who love you. That's what I think. I mean, that's what I think you would do if you love your children. You'd want them to be more free to live an authentic life based in their passions. And that could be music, could be coloring, drawing, painting, glass art. Why does it matter? If that's what you love to do and that's what makes you happy, then you should go do that. You should do it your entire life and let people like me write the software to make the big machines do what humans suck at doing. That to me is a platform that somebody should run on, but nobody's going to run on it. And if somebody runs on it, nobody will do it because we got that Federal Reserve. They own the federal government. And the federal government has to go kiss their butt to get the money printed to keep the economy from falling. What happens is really based on people. People have to use their collective power to make a change, and you're only going to do that together, indivisible, not divided up by these political parties. It's like Susan said, money is a fantasy construct, and it only exists because people use it and keep believing it. So is government. People stop believing in government, start accepting the fact that they don't mean your kids well. They mean the government more power. That's why they keep creating more and more laws, and people keep asking for more, and we lose more and more freedom every single generation. Every single election, they take more away. You don't create freedom and happy, good times by creating more draconian laws to send men with guns into neighborhoods to force you to do what they want you to do. That's just more forced labor. That's just more slavery and plantation. We cray-cray, Lori. We are cray-cray. Can we say it another way, Lori? We are driven crazy. Americans aren't crazy. Americans. Americans aren't crazy. Americans are starved into insanity. Because cray-cray people are very profitable. It's profitable for a government to have cray-cray people. They'll keep working. They'll keep paying taxes. They'll keep doing all the things government wants them to do so they can use their collective GDP, their power, to go blow something else up. To steal more, to get more power for government, not for the people. And the more power for the government, the more they can take away from the people. Because remember, they don't care about you. They care about power. Do you think your politician, if politician was born in Iran, do you think that they would like, we love America. We're going to take care of America. No, it just happens to be where they're born. They'd abuse the people over there to bomb you over here. It's all a game. It's game theory. Gaming theory. Stop being game. Stop playing the game. You're not game. You're not livestock. You're a human being. You have your own passions, love, and things that you want to do. You see your little baby, like y'all got these little kids and you watch what they're doing. Don't you want them to do that like when they're happy? You just see them playing with blocks, I don't know, whatever they're doing. Playing with dump trucks in the backyard or whatever, having fun. Don't you want them to have fun their entire life? Don't you want them to be free? Or do you really want them to go and be forced to do what you're forced to do? They're out there playing in the garden, planting seeds and sniffing flowers and stuff, picking flowers, the wrong flowers. Don't be over my house picking my damn flowers, but don't you want them to do that for a living? Like for life? Or you really want them to be slaves of the GDP? I think people are driven crazy, and I think misery loves company. And when you give people misery, they want that misery on you. It boggled my mind. I asked the guy the other day, and he said, I paid into Medicare, and they should have to too. It's like, why would you wish that on the next generation? Don't you love them? Drugs, food, media, and all kinds of medicine. All right, Shelby, I'm sure that's linking to something else. I'm not sure we're going. Kids, babies, amazing. Stop effing with them. Let them be free. I know, Jasmine, if you let them be free, they'll become beautiful things. And it won't really matter what people believe. Like, it won't matter what God that you have, what race you are, what religion. Like, none of it matters because people will be free. Joyous people create joyous communities, and a joyous society and a joyous region creates a joyous nation, creates a joyous planet. The ones that are legislated into scarcity, legislated into planned obsolescence, legislated into poisoned water, legislated into poisoned food, legislated into conflict with their neighbor and everybody all over the damn planet, they share that misery all over the world. We need aboriginal ways at this juncture. We do, Miss T, but can I say it another way? We need all ancient ways. We need to go back to respecting our elders everywhere. You know, not just the aboriginal tribes. They were sustainable. They sustained themselves for thousands of years without global conflicts, poisoning their own people's water and food. They were sustainable, right? Native Americans, sustainable. Latin Americans, sustainable. Till Cortez got there and spread the swine flu or whatever, he coughed up on everybody and killed millions of people. The Germanic tribes, sustainable. The British tribes, sustainable. We all come from sustainable tribes. Irish, sustainable. For thousands of years, they didn't have the problems we had. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's why I always believe that we should go back to being communities. Go back to being tribes and communities. We're just not evolved enough. We're not evolved enough for nations. We're not evolved enough for money. We're not evolved enough for any of these concepts of putting massive power in anybody's hands. I mean, the most evolved people we can think of, the most sentient people we can think of, they still would be the most dangerous people on the planet as a president of the United States or a owner of a Rothschild bank or whoever runs all of that stuff. We got to get past power. The only reason you want power over anybody else, the only reason you group up with anyone else is because you're a coward. It's because you're scared. And so you want to use the patriarchal concept of force and strength and numbers to force your will over somebody else. But that's why that peace thing's help. When you're at peace, you're not worried about having force over anyone else. You have that ability to spend time in a sixth sense and sense people all over this planet. I tell you something creepy and weird. I sense fish. I sense plants and flowers. I sense them and I think they sense me. I think this whole world, when you get out of the five senses, there's so much depth to this existence. It's just unfathomable. Like I was looking at a documentary about the Tibetan monks and how they came about. Oh my gosh, I'll post it. It was amazing. Just how they went from starving on mountains to accepting Buddhism and spending time in peace. There's so much more out there. There's so much more out there than to be on a king's errand all the damn time because they've constructed their kingdom in a way that creates soldiers and starving people to be on a king's errand their entire life. I think my only mission in life anymore is just to free the human race. We got to free the human race, y'all. That's it. Free the human race. And the great thing is you don't free the human race with swords. You don't free the human race with tanks. You don't need all that. All you need is a mouth and a heart. That's all you need. Mouth and a heart. You don't need construction equipment. You don't need worms that go on people's veins that are robots. You don't need drones. Nope, you don't need that. You don't need massive murder weapons to send around the world. And the people who use them run for president and they run for peace, but they believe in like using these massive metal weapons to murder people. I keep seeing that Marianne commercial. I have no idea. Was that Tulsi? I don't even know who it is. I think it's Tulsi. I keep seeing the commercial. Freeing the human race is a concept. Free your mind and the rest will follow. Be colorblind. Don't be so shallow. Prophet once said that, and so is In Vogue. I think they said it too. You know, and those are very true things. You got to free your mind, and the planet will follow. Stop pushing other people into outrage with your own outrage. Let me see. We aren't crazy. We are inherently sociopaths, meaning we operate in idealized reality in the expense, and in the face of empirical reality. Absolutely. The only thing I could add to that, Beaufont, is, and we are inherently sociopaths by evolution, right? By scarcity. Scarcity gave us this sociopathic nature, evolving on a planet that everything's trying to reclaim our energy. And we can get out of that. Like, I think at the core, we really don't know what we are. We live in the default of what scarcity made us, and we can get out of that epigenetic, multi-generational sociopathy. Big words. Big words. But I listen to smart people. Big words. I'm 41. Out of 15 females my age range, I found one that was not on some type of mental health medication. I thought you were wrong about 2/3 of the females being medicated. That hurts. Yeah, well, Trish, I think it actually is probably worse than that. When I was in Big Pharma, I want to say, I mean, the statistic was horrible for antidepressants. I think the company I worked for, the majority of their profits came from antidepressants, and I worked for a few of them. Yeah, and that's the sign, Trish, is that if you have a nation that people can't get out of the bed in the morning without taking a synthetic drug made in a laboratory, you haven't made a society. You've made a torture kingdom, a torturous kingdom for reasons only they know. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. We literally are a misery machine. But everybody had some chicken at the at the barbecue yesterday. It's ridiculous. They had Labor Day. We celebrated the one day of the year that people actually are free. When people stop believing this nonsense, Trish, that's when we move forward. And that's what I'm saying. It's very easy to fix the world. You just walk away from dominating other people. You know, walk into sovereignty and leaving everybody alone. Like Jasmine said, walk into sustainability. We're all good to go. But we keep trying to control each other. We are all going to die, and it's going to hurt. We're all going to die anyway, but it's going to hurt a hell of a lot more as everyone's fighting to have more power over each other to that one little kid in Yemen figures out some Nikola Tesla death ray. Then that's going to hurt, because that little kid ain't going to like us, and they shouldn't. We starved him to death in all his little schools, play buddies, so we could have jobs, so we could have more slavery. Talk about an insane species. The most sentient people throughout history were usually financially poor. Yeah, Susan, because I think money infects people. There's something psychopathic about it. And the people who have more, not everybody, but it tends to be. The people who have more, there's some sort of negative energy. Like, money is a representation of human labor, literally forced labor and slavery, because all jobs are. Most jobs, unless you love your job and you do it for free. Then I think that somehow that energy, it infects you. Like, all right. We're getting into some real crazy stuff, but there is no question, like that scripture says, it's easier for a camel to enter through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to inherit the kingdom of heaven. There's something very evil about money in our current evolution status, because the people who have more are okay with more crazy, insane projects that allow them to keep that money or allow them to make more. All right. Free our minds and hearts and share. That's it, Jasmine. Free your heart, free your mind, find peace, joy, love, happiness, spend time in your sixth sense, and help other people. That's all you can do. Talk to them, share joy with them in their life, and hopefully they look at you and like, wow, how in the world are you at such peace in all of this insanity? And I think joy is infectious. I think peace is infectious. I think most people want it, especially in such a miserable country, that we pretend that we're okay. All right, anyway, let me get going. I am wealthy beyond paper. And that's it, Jasmine. And that means you have real wealth. When you realize your wealth doesn't come from paper, you actually have a valuable wealth. Ah, there go Jay. What's going on, Jay? I haven't seen you in a minute. I hope everything is good in your life. All right, let me get out of here. Ask yourself, why are you depressed? Yeah, Jasmine, I'm not a expert on any of that depression or anything, but if we live in a country and the government is literally making people depressed through drugs, through massive corporations, through laws restricting rights and freedoms and liberties, and making life harder on people, throwing them in prison when they lash out from the outrage they have from the hard that they've been putting on people, then the only place I can fight depression is being honest with what our government is always achieving. It's not what their intents are. Maybe they intend well. I don't know. But government, it's a power structure. It needs more power. It's like business. The basis of business is to make money, and the basis of government is power. And you gain more power with sick people. You have more power. You yield more power over other nations and over your people if they're depressed. Depressed people, I heard put it, depressed and suffering people are easy to please, right? If you don't have anything and you just live in misery, somebody can bring you a Pepsi Cola and you'll just praise them. They'll be God to you. You haven't had a Pepsi Cola in forever. People get out of prison, they run to Kentucky Fried Chicken, they don't know how to act. Simple things. And so people who are miserable and suffering are simply easier, less ROI for systems that are based in power. And that's government. So no, governments don't want you to be happy and free and joyous. They don't love you. They're not looking out for you. They don't care about you. Their organization is about power. A government that loves you wants to go away. It reduces its power. Government that has any concern or people, when you know people in government are concerned about you, they're writing less laws. They're deleting laws. They're freeing more people, and they're doing things that's helping people, not robbing other nations for big corporations. All right. Last couple comments. I didn't see YouTube for a minute. Has not been on pharmaceuticals ever. I just smoke weed and drink some coffee and a bit of alcohol and smoke tobacco. Okay, hopefully it's natural tobacco, Citizen Deb. I haven't done drugs and pharmaceutical drugs. I haven't done them in I guess it's probably been about 15 years. I got rid of it. And my kids, I haven't given them anything. No Tylenol, no aspirin, none of that. I took the medicine cabinet, I threw it out. Now magically, I don't get sick. That's part of how I really think and know that these people are poisoning us. They're flipping genes through epigenetics and all these other things. And so yeah, I don't mess with Big Pharma at all. I think a lot of people's misery and depression comes from the drugs that they take. I don't think the dangerous drugs are the ones that they Schedule 1. I think the dangerous drugs are the ones that the farm right down on the corner at the CVS and the Walgreens. I don't think a doctor's trying to heal you that tells you need to be on a medication for life for months or years. I think that's a fool. That's a chemist trying to sell you drugs. I think it's a drug deal. They just don't have a 3-stripe Adidas suit, a gold chain, and poor. If you're a drug dealer and you're poor, you go to prison. If you're a drug dealer and you're a big pharma, you get a nice establishment on a corner and you can drug everybody that you want. All right, I gotta get going. Listen, y'all have a great day. This is Gerard. Love y'all to death. Try to find that peace. Seek peace. Seek peace with your neighbors. Find peace. Be indivisible. When we become indivisible, we're good to go. Until then, we've basically taken our power of having 7 billion cousins all over this world that we were born to that love us and we love them. And we've given all that power to a system and a government, a religion, or something else that doesn't mean us harm. It's not biological and it has nothing to do with the human race. All right, how do you going? Y'all have a great day. It's Gerard. Love y'all to death now. Bye-bye. Don't give up your power. These people are all your family. Love them to death. Seek to understand them, not to have outrage with them. Bye-bye.